99X, it's Barnes and Leslie. And just before turning the mics on, Leslie, you said something that was very, I thought, on point. And I think the world should hear, because many of the things that you say off the mic are funny, but you don't want to let them out.
Well, this was actually serious because I said that this show is all about saving lives.
Yes.
And we've proven that.
We're about saving lives, giving you money to listen. We're trying to keep you around.
And here's just another segment to prove that, Barnes.
Yes. Today on The Morning X, we're diving into groundbreaking science with a guest who is pushing the limits of addiction treatment. This is super interesting. Researchers are experimenting with non-invasive ultrasound brain zapping that may help break the cycle of drug and alcohol addiction by targeting craving centers in the brain. This treatment could be a game changer in the mental health and recovery area. We've got a neuroscientist, maybe the first ever
on this show.
James Mahoney. Hi, James.
Hello. Thanks so much for having me on today.
Absolutely. How did you even get into this?
Yeah, so, the addiction epidemic that we're facing right now, it's obviously, hitting everywhere across the nation. And when I finished up my PhD down in Houston, I wanted to go to the center of where the addiction epidemic is, and that was in Morgantown, West Virginia. And that's where we've been doing some groundbreaking research.
Wow, so you moved there just for this?
Absolutely. That's right. Yep. I figured that the best thing to do would be to go to kind of the belly of the beast.
Wow.
Where people were really in despair. Overdose rates and the deaths from drug addiction have been, skyrocketing in this area. So it's a place for me to go.
Doctor, I've heard of things like, hypnosis or, the EMDR therapy. How is brain zapping different? Explain it to us.
Sure. So with those types of therapies, behavioral therapy, and then also medication therapy, for example, buprenorphine or Suboxone, which is really good at reducing opioid cravings and opioid use. They work, but they don't work for everybody. So, what we wanted to do is develop other methods that are non-behavioral, non-pharmacological, or non-medication to see if they can be an additive treatment. So we don't look at it as replacing any of the standard of care treatments. We don't look at it as, flipping the addiction switch and just turning it off. That's not our goal here. But what our goal is to develop these new treatments that involve what we call neuromodulation. And by doing so, having another tool for the patient to have in their toolbox to help them overcome their disease.
I mean, because it looks like Frankenstein. I mean, you're actually putting a thing on people's heads and actually zapping their brain, right?
So that's right. So during the procedure itself, the focused ultrasound procedure, they do have, they wear a helmet. And it's a quick 20-minute procedure. So they're in a helmet during that time, and they're in an MRI as well, because we use the MRI to guide exactly where we want the focused ultrasound energy to go.
Wow.
But as soon as that's over, they come out of the MRI, we take the helmet off, and they're back to kind of where they were. So
with drugs that we're talking about, could this expand to other things, like, for instance, for me with peanut M&Ms?
Good point, Barnes.
Could you drill down that low on the scale?
So absolutely. So when we look at this as a treatment, we have medications like Suboxone, as I mentioned earlier, that works well for opioids, but other substances like methamphetamine, which is really flooding the streets right now, it's independently contributing to overdoses. There's no medication for that. So with a treatment such as focused ultrasound, what we're doing is we're targeting the center of the reward circuitry, which is called the nucleus accumbens. So that's the center of the reward center. And by doing so, we're able to reduce the craving or the urge for individuals to use all substances. So opioids, methamphetamine. We're also currently testing it out for other things like binge eating disorder. We're just right now initiating a study for binge eating.
This is fascinating. We're talking to Dr. James Mahoney, a neuroscientist, on brain zapping. Can you give us like an example of some of the results?
Absolutely, sure. So, what we would do, we've completed an open label trial with 20 participants that have opioid and other substance use disorders. And what we've found with the open label trial is that individuals, after they complete the procedure, they have a reduction in cravings. It almost bottoms out completely. So these are individuals that come in and they crave substances a lot. So they always are thinking about using different drugs, or they're using drugs, withdrawing from drugs, what we find is that after the treatment, their desire to use decreases substantially. And by doing so, we're able to remove some of that noise, some of the noise created by the cravings that they experience, so that they're able to better engage in treatment. So they're able to adhere to what they learn in their group therapy and individual therapy. They attend different types of peer support-led groups in their own home settings. So they're able to better engage in the standard of care treatments.
How close is this technology to being used? I mean, I don't know if it would ever make it to a home setting or in a doctor's office. Like, how soon is it to being out of trials, and how much would it cost? Because, I mean, some people might choose this over, say, Ozempic or Wegovy or whatever to try and attack weight loss in this manner.
Mm-hmm.
Sure. So those are all great questions. Currently, so we're really in the infancy of looking at focused ultrasound for behavioral disorders, such as addiction, such as binge eating. So it's really a stepwise process. So right now for addiction, for example, as I mentioned, we finished the open label trial. Now we're looking at a randomized control trial, which are necessary for different treatments, whether it's medication or neuromodulation, to gain FDA approval. So these are all these studies are overseen by the Food and Drug Administration. The addiction study is funded by the National Institute of Health and the National Institute of Drug Abuse. So they all have a lot of oversight over what we're doing. So that's how we know that we're doing things kind of to a T, and we're making sure that we're, doing things from a regulatory standpoint all on the up. So with all that being said, it is going to take some time before this can lead to FDA approval. The hope is that we are able to get it out more widespread throughout the nation, get it into more clinics, make it more scalable, because there are too many people that are dying from addiction. And we want to make sure that we're able to get to where we need to be able to treat these individuals. But we have to make sure that we do so in a very safe and strategic fashion, because we want to make sure that this treatment will work.
What about the second part? I was asking cost. Is this going to be something that's ridiculous, or something people could actually have access to easily?
So again, the goal is going to be for us to have strong enough results to go to the FDA to make this, insurance reimbursable. Because one of the big things is that if we're able to reduce cravings, meaning that we're able to reduce drug use recurrence or relapse of individuals, then there's going to be less burden on the medical system. There's going to be less return visits and readmissions to the emergency departments, to residential treatment centers. So it could be a cost saver further down the road. So that's why we're hopeful that if we do find that there's the results stay as we've seen, and it shows that there's a positive effect, we're very hopeful that this can one day be an approved medication or an approved treatment that can be combined with other medications and other behavioral treatments and be reimbursed.
It's unbelievable that it could treat addiction or depression, but question for you, are there ethical or psychological concerns since this is an invasive approach?
So we actually consider, that's a great question. So we consider it a non-invasive approach because we're basing this off of some of our earlier work with called deep brain stimulation, which is an FDA-approved treatment for like Parkinson's disease and tremor. Mm-hmm. Now, that involves implantable hardware. You have to put leads deep into the brain. So this is, non-invasive in that we're able to target those same areas of the brain, but we don't need to make any sort of invasive incision, or there's no implantable hardware. So it's considered non-invasive. And, our side effect profile has been very positive because we haven't seen any really negative side effects that are related to the procedure itself. So it's got a positive side effect profile so far. So we're hopeful. And that's why, the FDA regulating it is very positive, because we know that we're tracking, adverse events is what we call them, or side effects, making sure that we have all the documentation in place, because if this wasn't safe, we certainly wouldn't want to be doing it.
Man, this is just wild. The future is freaking amazing in some ways. James Mahoney, a neuroscientist with this brain zapping technology. They're in trials right now. How can people find out any more just about it if they want? Do you have a website or something people can go to?
Yeah, so the WVU, West Virginia University, if you go to the Rockefeller Neuroscience Institute website, we have information about all of our clinical trials there. We have several different types of trials going on currently, so they can be referred to that site.
Got it. James, thank you very much. Fascinating stuff.
Thanks so much.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me on today.
Thanks a lot. Bye-bye. Just truly fascinating. And like you said, Leslie, We're just trying to keep you around.
We are.
This is the original. It is 99X.